What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Welcome to season two of Borderlands and Beyond. My name is Misael Ramirez. I'm the creator of Craft Cultura. I'll be your host today. We got a couple people on I see already. Yelitza. What's going on, Yelitza? We're going to wait till a couple people pop in. But very excited about season two. This episode, we have a very special guest. It's going to be about an hour episode. Long overdue. We have Froge Studios today. But before we get into that, I just want to thank everybody for supporting Craft these past 2 years. Especially we've been in a pandemic. So we just want to thank everybody for the constant support, always showing us love. And, as we go into year three, we're very excited that the collective, the organization has been growing. For those that are new to Craft, we are a Chicanx, Latinx community-based organization. We're a grassroots org, and we host an array of different events throughout the borderlands. So it's very exciting that we've just had, different events these past few years, and we've gotten to meet all of you new people throughout the years. Last year was awesome. And all of our events are self-funded, free for the community as well. So if you, support, if you like our events, feel free to, you can donate at Craft Cultura just to continue supporting these type of events here. Um, we're gonna have time for discussions and some questions as well with Froge. So feel free to drop a question, leave a comment. That way Froge can get to it and get back to you. And stick around towards the end. We're gonna have a raffle, some merch giveaway. So that'll be towards the end. So with all that being said, very excited to bring in today's guest. He's a Craft team member. He's a talented artist, graphic designer here from the Valley. Um, and I think he's got an interesting story. So we're very excited to bring in Froge Studios. What's going on, Froge?
What's happening? Thank you for having me.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing good. Finally excited that we're doing this little chat here. I know it's been kind of long overdue, and you got to give the people what they want.
Exactly, man. The people have been asking about Froge. Who is Froge? And but how you been, man? How's your 2020 so far? 2022.
Good so far. Let's start off strong. There's been a lot more projects that have kind of landed on my plate, so I'm always super grateful to have more work. At the time, maybe if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have probably complained about, oh no, like more work. I need my free time, and that's also part of it, also. But I've definitely had a huge change of mindset as far as like just being able to stay busy and collaborate with more and more people. So can't complain.
Man, love to hear it, man. So, we have a history of how we met last year, how you joined the Craft Cultura team.
Right.
But take us back, man. Take us back to and a little bit of the origin story, man. Who is Froge? What's Froge Studios? Take us, explain, I guess, to the people a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and Froge Studios as well.
Cool. Well, I guess I'll start where we kind of linked up, you and I, and then I'll work my way backwards. But I know sometime, when was it? It was around this time of the year, wasn't it? Like early 2021, I think,
Right.
when we
Right.
had first
Yeah.
met up. So
Yeah.
Chico and I initially we linked up at Grind Coffee in Edinburgh. And so this is through a mutual friend, Genesis. So he's been a huge advocator and supporter of just linking up people. This guy just he was like the like those operators back in the day where they just have like the little lines that are just connecting every little communication method coming through. So he linked us up. I was just reaching out at the time, still am in the regards of like wanting to connect and like link up with other creatives here in our community and just basically network. Like I'm huge on networking. Um, I've always been just like the friendly type of person that just like I can make friends quickly and just befriend somebody and like, hey, I want to hang out with this person, right? But I never actually really I played it more on a personal side, but never really applied it professionally where like, hey, I can link up with other creatives and maybe work with them or build things together, right? And so that was my cry for help, I guess, in 2021. through a conversation. I was talking to Genesis, and he was like, "Hey, you should reach out to Chico." I think at the time he had suggested like you guys for me to help you guys out with like merch online, setting something up online. And so I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know much about craft at the time. I didn't know what was going on. I had heard, I'd seen the logo, but I just never really, um, you know, got involved too much, right? And then that's when I reached out to Chico. Um, we set up an impromptu meeting. I took my lunch break there, and as Chico likes to always mention, I was all I was all suited up with my tie and everything. Was there very very formal? Hello, sir, please. Um, and so yeah, I mean, we linked up. The rest is history. We our first collab I think was like the MLK graphic that we did last year.
Right,
Um, and then from there on out, I think little by little, I started becoming a little more incorporated into the team and having a little bit more responsibilities and whatnot. But I guess all that to say, yeah, like my name's Ernie. I'm from McAllen, Texas, and I've always been that artsy kid that just wanted to be a little different, I guess. And I think growing up, I didn't really lean into those tendencies. I always kind of saw them as a hindrance. If I'm being honest, I always felt like, well, like why do I have these crazy ideas? Why do I always have to make things different? Or why do I always got to think outside the box? And at the time, and to this day, still, like you are gonna get some pushback in society whenever you try to if you're too outside of the box, you're gonna draw some attention of like, what are you doing? Like, get back in your lane. You know what I mean?
mm,
And for the longest time, I'd say for the better half of my life, I felt like I was just kind of living in those creative shadows of mine. I was like, well, it's cool if I express them maybe to like my close friends and you know um a project here and there, but nobody really cares about it or nobody really wants to see it or whatever. And I think it was only up until maybe like I'd say like the last 3 4 years, if I'm being honest, where like I really leaned into it and said, you know what, like screw it, let's see what happens. Like I think people already see me as like the loud, crazy one, and so I was like, what happens if we just double down on that and like like just fully commit to who I am, who I want to be. And I think it's starting to work in my favor.
man, love that, Froge, and I call you Froge, right? But it's Ernie for those that don't know. It's Ernie Salcedo from McAllen, Texas. Like you mentioned, man, our mutual friend Genesis connected us.
Right.
Um, and I think that's a theme that you and me have continued to be talking about is that connection and using our craft, pun intended, to connect us with community.
Right.
But take us back, man, to when you were a young tadpole, man, like that creative kid that you're talking about. It was something that was always in you. Do you come from a background of artists? Like, what was it like growing up as a creative kid here in the Borderlands, here in the Valley?
I would say I guess I do come from a background of creative artists. Like my dad was always playing in bands at the time, and then my mom was actually a singer also in her time as well. And so music's also a huge part of my life. I do play in a band. Fun fact: we haven't done anything actively in a while, but we do play. It's instrumental death metal, if you will. And so there's that part of my life that I've been meaning to that itch that I've been meaning to scratch for so long to just get back into it. I kind of fell off just because life and responsibilities, but that's definitely a huge part of me. And for anybody that knows me, that's either worked with me or done something, like I'm always drumming on the table, on the plate, wherever I'm eating, on a person if you're too close to me. I've always got this beat. Like I have to have some type of soundtrack, like whether it's headphones, a little speaker on my backpack. Like I have to have some beats. Whenever I'm working on stuff, that's what fuels me. But anyways, so yeah, like I was always just kind of around music and art. And just as a kid, like I always remember just my biggest thing when I was growing up was drawing. That was my biggest thing. Like I was always drawing really technical things where I remember just being super inspired by the Matrix whenever it came out back in the day. And just drawing a lot of like industrial type of art where there's like cables and wires and all this machinery mixed with like cyborgs and real crazy stuff like that. And my parents were always like, "Where does he come up with all this ideas?" You know what I mean? And I don't know. It was just I just like that stuff. Um, and yeah, I mean, I was always drawing, and my friends just ended up knowing me as like, "Oh yeah, just Ernie can draw." Like, you know, give him something to draw, and he'll draw. Like, there's no boundaries for this man. And I was like, I mean, I'm not that great, but I can draw. And I think eventually I remember in high school, we were getting ready to graduate, and then the counselor was like, "Okay, like everybody needs to take some. I think it was like an aptitude test or something to kind of get you prepared for college, and like, hey, like, what are you good at, or what do you want to do?" Um, and I felt like at the time I was like, I don't want to teach art. I don't want to be an art teacher. Like, what else can I do? And through I think through the questions that I answered, the word or the career graphic design came up, and I was like, "What is that?" And then I looked into it, and I was like, "Oh, that doesn't sound bad. Like, I think I can kind of." I was used to like the analog side of things where you would just draw on paper, and I was like, I can combine that with the digital world, and maybe find some passion in that. And then, sure enough, pretty much the rest is history. I got involved. As I went to Pan Am UTRGV, formerly Pan Am, back in my day, and that's when I started just taking classes and getting involved in the career. And here we are.
Man, that's what high school did you go to?
I went to McCallum Memorial High School,
Okay, shout out, Matt
class
Cal.
of '06, baby.
Okay, shout out to that whole class. He's still here. That's really cool, man. So it seems like you had a supportive unit, like your core, your family. They kind of have that background. Seem like
Oh,
they didn't quite. You came out a little different from the cloth, but they supported you.
yeah.
That's really cool. Was there spaces growing up in the valley that you could practice your craft
Um,
outside of
honestly,
school?
I'm sure there was, to be honest. But here's the thing, and it goes back to like you and I linking up last year. Like, I'm sure there was places for me to have done that stuff, but I never, again, because I was in my own head of like, this is just my art thing. Like, nobody cares about it. I'm gonna keep it to myself. I'm not gonna bother anybody with it. Like, whatever. I was always kind of to myself in that regard. You know what I mean? I never expressed it openly uh, or largely enough to where other people, either myself reached out to other people or other people reached out to me. I never put it out there, I guess, right? And so up until, again, going back to that topic, like up until about like last year, the last 2 years, even, that's when I really started like, you know what, like I need to network with these people. Like I started seeing with the prevalence of social media and other pages and other creators, I was like, dude, this guy lives here. Like I can hang out with this guy, or like maybe he wants to talk about fonts or whatever. And so that's when my eyes really opened up, and I was like, dude, like, and then especially after the pandemic, I was like, dude, you can connect with anybody anywhere. You know what I mean? It's great if it's in your neighborhood because it's down the street and you can go have a coffee with this guy. But even if it's not, like, there's no excuse to reach out to these people. And so that's kind of where I've been. And I've really taken it all in as far as like reaching out to everybody and networking with people. And I've seen the response that people are open to that stuff. So I'm doubling down on that. And like I'm addicted to that path essentially.
Man, and this show, we created this webisode show, Borderlands and Beyond, during the pandemic because we were all quarantined, we were stuck.
Right.
And it's something that we decided, let's bring it back. Just because we're not necessarily it's not mandatory to quarantine anymore, it's still a way that we're able to connect,
Right.
keep friendships, network, learn from each other. And then, like everybody right now that's tuned in, much love to everybody. They can tune in from the comfort of wherever they are.
Right.
So that's really cool, man. So can you talk a little bit about, as far as your creative process, what's that like? What's your creative process like? And has that changed also pre-COVID and now that we're still in like year 3 of COVID? But what's your creative process kind of like? Take us in.
So I'm usually more on the prospecting side. And what that means is essentially like I'm always on, like, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but wherever I'm at, like, I'm always like studying and analyzing, like, oh, that's a cool font, that's a cool color, I like the way this image was cut out. And I mean, you've seen it, like anybody that's either had lunch with me or just we've hung out somewhere, like I'm always like, I don't like this because of this, or they should have done this, or like that switch is always on. And so I think when I prepare, I guess I'm always trying to prepare. And so whenever I'm in front of a computer and I'm ready to take on a project, my brain's already downloaded enough reference material that I
Mhm.
can kind of pull from that and like, okay, like, you know, this kind of worked out here, this kind of worked out there, and then kind of figure out the two. Um, Pinterest also is like a huge inspiration where I can kind of build mood boards and certain styles that I may want to go down the a future road, right? Like so different styles, always just bringing it all together and just kind of preparing before I even get to a computer. And then from there on out, once I'm there, then it's just kind of again just drawing from the different uh inspiration boards that I've got, and then seeing like, okay, what's the direction that we need to go for. Um, I don't know if that answers the question, but that's usually my mental approach, at least, of like, okay, like, this is how I need to prepare for this, I guess.
And did that change throughout the pandemic? Um, because you mentioned now you're more, a part of the community now. Where you create? Are you creating at home? Are you going to certain places at the workplace? What's
Right.
that like?
So two things with that. I've definitely learned. I've been going through a lot of introspective reflection, and so I have realized I like to focus best whenever I have like a constantly like revolving door of environments going on. And so me personally, I just need that type of stimulation where like if I'm just in the same room staring at the same wall all day every day, like I wither. That's my kryptonite. There's no better way to destroy my creativity than just doing that, right? Routine. And so I try as best as I can to kind of change it up, basically, right? So I'm always now after that it's a little more safer to go back out. I'm always changing up. So either going to a coffee shop, somebody's house, either where else? Genesis, he's got his business going on there as well. Him and Pete and the rest of the crew, like those guys, they've got Nopalito and Tropicasa, like they're really good homies. I'll just pop in there and like even sometimes they've got events going on, and I'm just like, hey, don't mind me, I'm just gonna be in the back here just doing some stuff, and that to some people that might be a distraction. And to some degree, I'll admit it is kind of a distraction for me as well. But I feel like I kind of feed off of that. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, like they got something going on. Like I've got the commotion, but I'm also here to like do this one thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nah, super cool, man. And I think we work similar that I need like a TV on, I need music going on, I need stimulation, man, and constantly
Right.
changing the environment. So let's see. What would you describe to those that are new to Froge Studios, um, your style like? What's Froge and explain what is Froge Studios?
Okay, so Froge Studios is my alias, right? I didn't want to be known as just like Ernie, the graphic designer. And so I kind of started thinking like a little bit beyond that. And I came up with a name. But essentially, it's also a brand that I want to develop with Froge Studios. So it's not just Froge Studios, the designer, but just its own entity. And I think that's like a longer conversation, but definitely the bigger things in play. For example, like I'd like to have like a clothing brand, and so that's definitely it's the way I see it is like the one large creative umbrella, and then all my passion projects and everything underneath it that kind of follow in. And so I did some researching, and I'm just in my own head. I'm just like writing stuff down, like what am I into, what am I not into, why do I keep leaning into these things, and why do I keep turning these things off. And long story short, I came up with my what's the word, like your my descriptor, I guess, for Froge Studios and what we stand for. And it's a statement of culture and expression. And it's really those two pillars are the main pillars of why I do the things that I do: culture and expression. I have to express it somehow, whether it's art, music, uh, some skit that I come up in my head and make a joke and make people laugh. And
Mhm.
then the culture part of it, the psychology, the community, connecting with other creatives, all that stuff just coming together. And so that's my North Star and my engine. And with those things in mind, I feel like I have a lot clearer path of like where I'm going, and so it's a lot easier to navigate a studio that way, and being able to know, okay, like this fuels me, this maybe not so much. But yeah, I mean, I think Froge Studios for sure is like, it's a little bit of graphic design, photography, videography, um, the whole clothing brand that I want to delve into. Um, what else? I've got a few more pillars that are kind of intermingled between the worlds. Music is also another big one. But it's essentially, for me, that's what Froge Studios is, and just little by little, eventually growing it to become that.
I love that, Fro. And that's how we initially connected, was through Froge Studios. And for those that are tuning in, Ernie became a Craft Cultura team member, but we wanted to highlight him today because he has his own studio going on, Froge Studios, and a lot of plans for that. Love the way you're collaborating with different creatives in the valley. So kind of want to talk about the evolution, man, of your art and how that's grown. So we have a question coming in from Yelitza.
Okay.
um, Shout out Yelitza, what's going on? So she asked, how has your art slash drawings changed over the years once you started your degree at UTPA?
Okay, that's a good question. So, actually, I'm sad to say I haven't drawn in so long. I just kind of fell off, I guess, because once I started going into the digital world, um, I kind of put all my eggs in that basket, if you will, and then just started focusing all digital. From time to time, like you'll see me like in a meeting or whatever, you'll see me kind of doodle, but I've never since then. It's been a long time that I've actually like set time aside to just draw. But I was that kid, man. Like on Saturdays or Sundays, I remember in this room, like we would have this long table, and I had my Sony Walkman, those like old school CD players,
Right.
with the anti skip technology that like you would turn that thing on, and yeah, like you can shake it, and it wouldn't skip, but dude, that would drain your battery for like that would reduce its battery life by like for like 30-20 minutes. You'd be good, and then it'd be dead. But yeah, I would just pop on headphones and just some music, and then I would just draw and stuff. But since then I haven't done it, but that's something that kind of comes up, that I'm constantly like, I should kind of get back into that. So drawing and music. So I'm really trying to hold myself accountable this season, this year 2022, to really get back into those things, at some capacity, because for me, like the longer I walk away from those things, the more guilty I feel of like, dude, like that was once a part of me that was really big, and like I can't just walk away from that, right? So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's where we're at.
Love it. Thanks, Yelitza. Thanks for the question. Um, so it's something that seems like it's always been in you. The technology finally matched your passion. We finally got the technology that you can create.
Right.
You've seen it evolve these past 10 years as a graphic designer, but I'd say, what advice can you give to up and coming aspiring graphic designers here on the Borderlands and beyond? And this is, you got your degree in it, and you
Right.
also have a career doing this. So can
Right.
you take us into that as well? How you got a career doing this, and you're also creating now on your own.
Right. I definitely think it's important to create, probably even more so than most people like to admit. I When I first got into the career, I never really understood the importance of creating for the sake of creating. I was always just like very very traditional, very linear, like, okay, you got a degree, you got to get a job, and then go. And that's cool too, but um again, like these last couple of years of collaborating and opening up to other worlds and other creators and whatever, um I realized, like, hey, like it goes back to expression. Like it's important for me personally to express, right? And some of these projects that I do on my own may not ever come up in my professional career, and so this is where I can tap into those things and reach out to a Chico or to a James and say, hey, like, let's just toss this one up for fun or whatever. You know what I mean? So expression's huge, and it's important to not walk away from that. As far as like advice for anybody growing up, man, like it's interesting hearing somebody else ask me that, because I was asking myself that, like, these last 10 years that I've been doing this, just like always looking out for some advice, for somebody, some mentor to just be like, hey, um here's how you're going to do A, B, C, and D, and this is how you're going to figure out. Here's a comprehensive PDF on all the things you should be doing as a graphic designer. Nobody tells you that stuff, man. Like, you got to figure it out on your own. All that to say, figure it out on your own. No, I'm just kidding. All that to say,
On your own, kid.
yeah, I want to be that person for somebody, for anybody. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I didn't have that. Like, I'm just here at the time. Obviously, Google's a lot more prevalent now, but at the time, like, 10 years ago or so, um, I was just kind of figuring it as I was going. So definitely, as far as advice goes, don't just be yourself. Like, lean in on that. Like, whatever style it is, pursue that, and I think the doors will slowly start to open up in that regard. And then two, just constantly make mistakes, but don't get discouraged, because I think it's easy for a lot of us to just, in general, in any field, um, or not even professionally, but just in general, like, when something doesn't go our way, we get discouraged and we walk away from it. So that's a huge one. Just don't give up. Just keep going. There's a lot of resources nowadays. Skillshare, or for that's a paid thing, where you can log in, get a subscription, and then learn from other creators, or even just YouTube. Like, if you don't know how to do a certain thing, whether it's in Photoshop or a video editing tip or whatever, all that information is there for us to consume. So it's just kind of having that motivation and that drive to stay the course. But I think it just comes back to staying true to yourself, and doing the things that you like to do. And then also being able to just power through. Sometimes it's going to be great. Sometimes it's not going to be so great. So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both. And then also too, just for the general public, my DMs are always open. So if there's anybody that ever needs advice or help, or that I can help out in any way with any insight that I've learned with making mistakes these last couple of years, by all means, like, if it'll help somebody, by all means.
Where can they follow you at?
So they can follow me on Instagram at Froge Studios. I also have a Facebook page, but I'm not as active. So Instagram is definitely the move for me. So if you wanna follow, like
Yeah,
and subscribe for more fire content, that's
don't
where we're at.
don't follow the Facebook. No,
Yeah,
that's
you can like the Facebook
Ernie.
page, but no, if you DM the Facebook page and I get back to you late, I'm sorry. Like, I forget to check that thing, but
That's
Instagram is where it's at.
Froge Studios at Froge Studios. It's like frog with the E.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, let's talk about the name. Where does Froge come from? Froge.
So Froge, initially, that was I want to say that was like 2006. It all started back in high school. And so, back in the day, text messaging, SMS, there was predictive texting. So this was back when phones had actual keys. Kids, back in the day, I'm giving my age here, but um, at some point, phones back in my day, they had keys. And so whenever you would kind of swipe your finger a certain way, it would auto predict, right? It's called T9, predictive texting. And so whenever you would swipe your name to for it to predict, it would guess car, vehicle, hamburger, right? And these are just common words. But whenever you would T9 my name, Ernie, it didn't know what to suggest, so it would just throw out Froge. And then I always thought that was cool. I was like, you know what, like, that's a cool little alias. Like, and at the time, I only used it towards my like gamer tags for, like, PlayStation or whatever. I was like, Froge sounds cool. Um, and so getting older, so that's where that came from. But getting older, then I was like, okay, like, I want to start like some type of design studio, or like a brand, right? Essentially, yeah. Like, what am I gonna name this brand? I don't want to. I see a lot of, like, people kind of default to their last name and go, Salinas Electrical or whatever, you know what I mean? And that's cool, but I was like, no, I don't want to be like Salcedo Studios or anything like that. Like, would be something cool, something different. And I was like, you know what? Like, I mean, I like Froge, and I feel like some people kind of know me by that already. And, like, what happens if we just really double down on that and just turn it into as much of a brand as we can? And then it just became that.
Man, I love that. And how would you describe like the brand? Because it's a lot of us thought it was Frog Studios, Frog, but you kind of you're playing on that as well. It's the colors are green. You have a little frog mascot now. Matches with anybody that knows Frog, man. Ernie, he's a personality that just jumps off the screen. Um, really quick. I think your graphics match your personality, man. So, how, how would you
Thank
describe? How would you describe? Yeah, to those that are kind of new to Froge Studios.
So
Um,
fun fact, it's pronounced Vogue, like Vogue. Is it's usually what the the that's the explanation that I give people. And it actually has nothing to do with frogs. I honestly like the color combination of the purples and the greens. And I figured I was like, frog, I guess it could be green. But it has no correlation whatsoever to frogs. However, in meeting other people, obviously everybody has a different way of pronouncing it. Froggy, Froge, uh I've heard it all basically, and that's fine too. But just as a fun fact, I guess, a disclaimer, there's no correlation to the frogs, but I'll take it. I think everybody, at the end of the day, that's part of the art movement, is like it's always going to be open to interpretation. But as far as so what was the question as far as styles go?
yeah, just somebody that's new to Froge. I guess those are some of your pillars: culture, expression. I know
Mhm.
you have other pillars as well.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, it's all about community connection. I've got them written down here: community connection, innovation, production, creativity, anthropology, psychology, and modernism. That's part of the culture side of it. Those are like my key pillars that fall, in my opinion, under culture. And those are the things that are just like constantly like what I gravitate towards. And then under the expression side, I've got art, music, communication, fashion, photography, conceptualizing, writing, journalism, conversation, and emotion. And I think those, with all those combined, I summarize it to culture and expression. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I think like Chico said, like anybody that's met me, like I'm always trying to just crack a joke or um, lighten up the mood. Get everybody to be having a good time, and I think that's just part of the gig. Like I like that stuff, but I never really took the time to understand why. You know what I mean? And again, like these last couple of years has just been like really, I've been looking inwards and like, okay, why do I keep doing these things? And just really trying to find out who I am. And I think having that clear path now has helped me navigate into figuring out where I want to go.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that we relate to, Froge, is that after college, it's like, now what?
Yeah,
And then you might get that job, but even then, it's it might not be what you expect. So the fact that I created Craft as also this umbrella where I can kind of just produce all these ideas, passions that I have. And I met you, Fro, kind of doing the same thing. So we
right.
have a question from Christian, and I think this will kind of direct it back to when we met. I also love what you said as far as the advice. Make mistakes, but don't get discouraged. You know what I mean? So I think we're still learning as we go. But Christian asked, shout out to Chris.
What up,
Uh,
Chris?
what has your experience been like working with the craft team, and how do you see art as part of social justice?
So I was completely ignorant to the art as part of social justice part of the world. Again, because of just my sheer ignorance of not branching out and contributing and collaborating with other people. But up until I broke out of that show and started a network with others, then I really saw the power behind somebody's skill set applied to a certain movement or cause, and the impact that it can have. Because, and I've told Chico this before too, like I'm very quick to dismiss my own work, because I'm just like, okay, cool, like I made this graphic, like, all right, I'm gonna on to the next one and on to the next one, and I just never stop. And I rarely take the time myself to look back and reflect on what that piece meant for somebody or how that helped somebody else's cause. And so that through craft has been huge, because in being able to work with the workshops and the festival that we did last year, um to me, I'm in my own head thinking like, okay, well, I'm just making graphics. But then seeing it on the banners, the social media pages, people sharing it, people referring back to it, and just how it's all interconnected, and the bigger meaning and impact that it has, then it just kind of like, it slapped me a little bit and woke up and like, hey, like this this can be used for something good. And not that I was using it for something bad before, but we really see now the benefit of those things. And so I guess all that to say, like I feel like I have a different lens now on how I approach things, and a little more conscious as to like, okay, well, this, what is this poster, what is this social media post going to say in regards to maybe an MLK, or whatever movement or situations happening at the time. Like I know currently, like the whole Ukraine situation is going on. Like I've seen a lot of people on social media posting graphics about that. You know what I mean? And that's powerful. You know what I mean? I never really thought that me personally, I could ever use my skill set to contribute to something like that. But it's always been there. I just never realized it, I guess.
Right, right. And I hope you've had a good experience with us.
Yeah.
um, it's interesting because I think, yeah, that was something that we talked about early on. That there's a lot of graphic designers in the valley, but I wanted it to be clear, like, hey, like, we're a social justice org, and this is the message we're pushing. So for you to, last year that we got the grant to host the poetry workshops and the poetry festival, I think you got to really create outside of the box what you're used to. Um, but the part I loved the most, man, was that you not only created the graphics, you came to the events, the workshops, all of them. You participated, you helped facilitate and organize, man. So that was really cool to see you collaborate with James and Gabby, Carlos, Nick. Um, and I think maybe that was something new for you, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that impacted you, the work that we did last year, like going back to work on a Monday after we just did this event that brought people because of your art, like that's what people see first, is the art, that visual.
Right, and I think, yeah, I missed the first part of Christian's question, but yeah, I had a solid experience. It definitely brought me out of my shell, and again, being able to meet all these people through these workshops. And otherwise, I would have never put myself in a situation where those paths would have crossed, where I would have not only been able to contribute art wise, but also, like you said, like being able to facilitate, or if we need to move a couple of chairs from place A to place B to get this done, and then get that, and all the logistics side of it, or just even to the festival, like at the end of the whole run. Like I never thought of myself being an MC, like in the graphic back here, like with the mic, like, all right, what's up, everybody? This next poet, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Like, yeah, like normally I would have never hit those bullet points. You know what I mean? And I definitely, that's a self-conscious decision, or a conscious decision of mine, to be able to not just be that guy that's like, okay, I'm gonna make a graphic. Here's a graphic. All right, later. Like I'll see you in 3 months. Like I do like getting involved, and I feel like I want to be able to contribute and participate as best as I can, because I know that I can contribute more. You know what I mean? And so I definitely don't want to sell myself short, and in whatever way I can help the team, by all means.
I appreciate you, Fro. With that being said, let's get a question in from Gabby. What's going on, Gabby? So she
Hey,
wants to ask, hey, any tips, suggestions on how to build confidence and trust in your personal creative process?
oh, that's huge. I've been asking myself that question. Um, I think it goes back to just, again, just leaning in on who you are as a person, and just running with that. Like, it's there's no way around it. I think we're just scared of judgment. It's that fear of judgment and being vulnerable. But you have to do it because it doesn't matter. And I'm very conscious of, like, my style on design. And I remember those conversations, but it's okay. But in college, um, I would always do, you know, the most, right? And like make this crazy graphic. And then I just remember people like, that's too much, man. Like you need to tone it down, or like, nah,
Mm.
that's too weird, or make it more, tone it down, or make it more this. And in the back of my head, I was like, I'm gonna do it for the sake of the assignment, but I don't agree with you, and I'm gonna do me somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And all that to say, like, it's you find your style, you find your niche, and you just have to do it. And not everybody's gonna agree with it, which is the main thing. The main point that I'm trying to make is like a lot of the stuff that I have on my Instagram, like somebody might say like, nah, I don't really like this. This guy's too much, or it's too crazy or it's too abstract, and that's okay too. And I don't mean that in a diss, but that's what life is. Like, not everybody's gonna agree with the way the pancakes taste that I have versus what's the other one? Denny's. You know what I mean? Like, that's just life. Like, and I think it's just being afraid of 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 not being afraid of failing or being judged, essentially, because I think at the end of the day, like, that's a huge one. It comes down to just people judging us and like, what are they going to say? Are they going to like it? Are they not going to like it? I mean, just lean in on it. um Continue honing in your craft and consume other uh mediums that you aspire to be like or are inspired by. Consume that and find your own way to mix it, and then just put that out and keep putting it out, and don't be ashamed. And sooner or later, what's that quote? Your vibe attracts your tribe. Sooner or later, like, you'll put out stuff that might be quirky or weird or whatever, but somebody's gonna vibe with it, and then those are your people, man. And that's what I'm after. Like, where are those people? Like, I feel like I've been living in the shadows for so long. Of like, nah, like, it needs to be this or it needs to be that. Like, nah, who cares, man? Just be weird, and then
Right.
the right ones will stay, I guess. So I don't
Your
know if that answers the question, but just.
your vibe attracts your tribe. Love it, man. And I think we both met each other at a time where we were stepping out of our comfort zone and meeting each other. I think that's the hard step, is going out of your way to initiate a friendship or a conversation or a meeting.
Right.
Um, but look where we are now, because we took that meeting, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Let's see. Samantha Guerra, shout out to Snick. She said, "Do you ever encounter a creative block while working on different projects? And if so, how do you deal with that?"
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
that's huge. Shout out to Snake. What's going on? Yeah, that's just part of for me at least. I feel like that's just part of the gig. Um, there's for me, there's two ways of going around that. Either one, stepping away and just doing something else. I'm like, all right, like, if you have the time for that, um,
Mhm.
step away. Go. For me, it's socializing and changing my environment. So, you know what, I'm gonna walk away from this and go meet up some friends at a restaurant or get some coffee or whatever. Like, just do something else, right? And then the other is just power through. For me, it's a little more taxing mentally and creatively, but that's usually been my formula to, like, just get through certain projects. And there's just so many factors. It depends. Like, oftentimes, though, I can't afford to walk away from things just because there's a lot of crazy deadlines going on in my world. So sometimes you just have to just power through. But it goes back to our previous topic of, like, what my creative process is. And I think maybe now that I think about it and say it out loud, I think that's probably my unconscious decision to always be prepared, because I know I have short deadlines. So I'm
Mhm.
always, like, stockpiling ideas of, like, oh, this is cool, this is not. So then when something comes in my plate, I'm already like, okay, this, I'm assuming it's gonna have a short deadline, and thus I try to be as prepared as I can. And basically that. So either changing my environment or just powering through.
Stepping away from for a bit. I like that, and that's something that you and me talk about when we do meet up. Because I think when we meet up, something that I told myself when you jumped onto the project was, I don't want to just hang out with Froge and all we talk about is the project. And you're a lunch guy, man. You like your hour lunches and good coffee. And I think that's when I got to know you a little bit more.
Right.
Outside of hanging out with the collective, just hanging out with you, and I'm like, okay, like Ernie has an hour. He's busy. He's got a lot of projects. But
Right.
a lot of our conversations during lunch are about not only our dreams and our visions, but sustainability and
Right.
burnout. So how do you balance like career and creativity? Stepping away. What are some things that you do when you do step away? Like you said, you have lunch with some friends, but I guess, yeah. How do you balance that when it comes to career and then your just personal creativity?
So that's definitely an interesting topic, because I've been struggling with that for, I'd say maybe like the last half a year. Um, I was always reluctant to believe that burnout was a thing. I was like, nah, that doesn't exist, man. Like, like, it's you just got to power through. You'll get over it, or whatever. But no, like, and then I went through it and I was like, okay, yeah, this is a thing. Like,
Right.
I don't want to look at a pixel. I don't want to touch a computer right now. Like, just stop. And
Yeah.
and then I realized, like, okay, yeah, like this isn't sustainable to always just power through things. Like, I
Hmm.
need to find a healthier balance, because my health started to take a toll. I started to have other, like stomach issues, and I was just like, dude, like, I'm too stressed. Like, I need to figure out a balance. So all that to say, yeah, like, burnout is a real thing. Um, Finding a balance is key. And so for me, I'm still trying to figure that out. To be honest, I don't have a formula, but I think it helps a lot to know who you are, and understand what helps you. But what helps me is, again, like, just stepping away. The little amount of free time that I do have, lately, I'll just be here at home, and, like, I remember, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, like, how are you gonna spend your weekend? And if I would have told you, like, just being at home is fine, I'd been like, nah, man, that's boring. Like, we gotta hit up Chico, we gotta go to the mall, we gotta go do all these things, we gotta be out, we gotta, and that's cool too. But at this point, I'm just like, dude, like, I just want to chill for a little bit, and, like, even if I'm home, and I'm not really a movie guy, so I can't even say, like, I'm gonna be home and watching a movie. Like, I just to be at home and just chill. You know what I mean? Like, relax, unwind. But lately it's been just, yeah, just a lot of YouTube. I'll watch a lot of just documentaries too. You know what I mean? I'm still watching tutorials also, like, on YouTube, as far as, like, technical tutorials for, like, Photoshop, or new features that came out in this year's software, whatever, all that stuff. I consume it first for content, and then if I need to reference it back for a project, I'll pull it up. But um yeah, like, I have to step away and do something else, because if I don't, like, I think I'm just gonna go crazy. Which it goes back to the music thing. Like, that's an itch that I need to scratch again, because I feel like that was one of my main things, my main crutches, when I was like, you know what, like, if I'm stressed or angry or whatever, like, I pick up a guitar and, write a couple riffs, and then somehow that end up being a song. But yeah, like, I need to scratch those creative itches I once had, outside of a laptop. So
Yeah, man. And you do graphics for, not just like anybody, man. You're doing graphics for the RGV Vipers, for the Toros. So a lot of people are depending on you for festivals.
right,
So I can imagine that stress. And there's deadlines that need to be made. People that hit you up. I know I've hit you up at midnight, 3 a.m. Hey, this
yeah,
needs to change. This color needs to change.
right,
And folks that aren't graphic designers, we think it's a simple change that you can make. So credit to all the graphic designers, man, out there. Couldn't do it without y'all. Y'all don't get the credit you deserve. It's a lot of behind the scenes labor, but definitely have to take care of yourself in that process.
right.
Let's see. Mario has a question as well. He says,
Hey, shout out to Mario.
shout out Mario, craft, sports, live events, businesses. How do you balance different directions and target audiences you're creating elements for?
Oh, this is a good one. So I feel the reason why I pursue Froge Studios so passionately is because that's how my brain works. And I don't know if it's because I'm self-diagnosing with ADD or ADHD, but I don't know I don't know, like, that my brain's always worked that way. Like, oh, like, I want to do a sports graphic, but then I can also do, like, the stuffier things for, like, an accountant, but then also do, like, a more experimental thing because I'm going to collab with James. But then I also want to do the craft thing. Like, I genuinely like a little bit of everything. And I think the biggest example I can give is my music taste. Like, if you log into my Spotify account and you see all the different playlists, like, fam, like, I got playlists for different moods, different styles, different vibes. Like, death metal's at my core, and that's always been home base for me. But we want to do smooth jazz, we want to do uh deep house, trance, corridos. Like, I'm all over the place creatively and musically, I feel like. And so, all that to say, I feel like those things help me kind of balance the different directions that I'm constantly being hit. So whether it's sports, what did it say, craft, live events, any other side business, like, I enjoy it because it keeps me fresh. And again, I think it goes back to the constant rotation of my environment. So as long as I'm doing something different always, I think that's what's going to keep me engaged. Because yeah, like if I'm constantly doing like, okay, here's this here's a sports graphic and you're going to make it the same thing forever, then it's like, dude, like there's no worse creative graveyard than just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so I think it's I guess it's worked in my favor somehow, but that's my formula.
Yeah, anybody knows Froge is this man wears many hats and he's constantly on the move. And I think you'd be worse if you had nothing to do. So
Yeah.
I like that you attach yourself to a lot of projects, and we'll deal with the self care later. But we're working on the self care. We're working on the self care with Rogue.
We'll figure that
Hopefully, this is a little bit of that, man.
out.
Let's see, Marianne. Shout out to Marianne. And
Marianne.
coffee's part of that process of fueling us, and we love going to a good coffee shop. Shout out to Grind Coffee. So she asked, "Does inspiration strike you at certain times?"
Inspiration strikes me at any time, anywhere. Like anybody that's like again, like that spent time around me, like again, I don't know if it's ADHD or what it is, but like we can be having a conversation, like, oh, mental note, like, oh, that'd be cool if like I like the way this graphic used this, or like, oh, I like those colors. Maybe if I use it for that project that Chico asked me about, okay. And I just take mental notes. So I don't know, man. Like I'm always on. Like my brain just never shuts off, and I'm just like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I don't want to do that. And so inspiration is just, I mean, I'm always stimulated by just everything. Like just me going to the mall, I'm looking at the ads right outside stores, like, oh, cool, I
What,
didn't think of that.
what about talk about like the valley? How does the valley inspire you? Like a lot of people talk about you have to leave the valley to create or get these opportunities as an artist, graphic designer. So how has the valley inspired you and influenced you?
So that inspiration comes from the people for me. I think it's always I was always ignorant again to the fact that like, hey, these people are here. You know what I mean? Like there's people that you can work with and collaborate with here in your own backyard. And so for me, the people, the community are what has inspired me the most. So like whether it's going to a coffee shop and saying hi to Marianne, or running into a homie at lunch or whatever, like hearing me getting into these like deep conversations and topics with them, and hearing what they're going through and what they've got on their plate, like that fuels me, because then it's like, okay, cool, like Chico, he's doing something with craft, like he's putting these events together, like okay, like I can do the same thing too. Like that inspires and motivates me to do stuff for Froge Studios. You know what I mean? Whether
Right.
it's putting an event or expressing art just like as a freebie, just for whatever, or collaborating with other people. That's yeah. There's just constant things happening always that I'm just like, dude, like I want to do these things also. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think that's part of our maybe our process. That's why we linked up, is that we're not gonna wait for somebody also to give us permission to create. We have the graphic designers, we have the people that can host the events, and we
Right.
have the community that supports and wants to see this. Um, you
And
know,
I want to add that something to your point also. Yeah, you're right. Like I definitely don't like to wait around uh to create something or make something happen. I can be very impatient in that regard. I want it quick and now, and let's make it happen tomorrow. But I've learned to kind of suppress that, still be focused and a little bit more patient to like get it done. Because I definitely, yeah, I don't. I feel like most of my life I've been waiting, like for the opportunity, for the person to reach out, for somebody to say yes and hire you for that or whatever. Like dude, that's not gonna happen. Like it might, like you'll get lucky and whatever, but I've realized you have to put in the work, and there's no harm in you reaching out. You know what I mean? Like
right.
go talk to that person, go ask if they need a logo, go hang out with that person if you've been wanting to hang out, whatever. Like, and it's not always gonna work. It's never, there's gonna be some misses in there, but that's fine too. But that goes back to like, don't get discouraged. Like again, like your vibe attracts your tribe, and I think the people that stick around, those are your people. But yeah, huge on that. Like don't wait around either to like, oh, like things are magically gonna happen, and whatever. Like, nah, man, take some action, and then you'll start seeing that, like, little by little, the stairwell starts to, like, show
Yeah.
itself, and then you know where to go.
Yeah, man, beautifully put, and I think that's kind of what we go after, man, is that we just created our own platforms, and we're not gonna wait for Netflix to stream us. We're not gonna wait for anybody to validate our work, man. We just created, and like I said, we have the talent here in the Valley.
Right.
So if you are an aspiring graphic designer, up and coming, a student, link up with Froge. Like he said, hop in his DMs, add him, ask him questions. He'll get back to you as soon as he can. But we're always open to hanging out, meeting new artists or people that just need community to use their craft and their skills. So if you're an aspiring graphic designer, we're always looking to give Froge a break also, and help him out, and he can help you. But reach out to Craft Cultura as well. Um, Ezra James Garza, shout out to Ezra. He asked, "Have you ever had to deal with someone changing your product without your input after delivering it? If so, how did you feel about it, and how did you respond?"
Let me see. Let me try to understand the question. Have you ever had to deal with someone changing your product without your input after? I think so. I was just having this conversation with myself a couple of days ago, because I was looking for, like, some like an answer to a different question, but this topic came up somehow. I'm sure there has been. I can't think of a certain situation off the top of my head, but yeah, like, it more than likely has happened, because I think as a creative, you build the thing, right? Like, here's what it is, and you think that that's going to be what it looks like till the end of time. Um but I think, maybe 10 years ago, Froge would have been like, nah, that's not right, that's my art, and you have no right to be changing it and whatever. But I've become a lot more flexible in that regard, and, like, tastes and opinions change constantly. You know what I mean? And I think, as long if it's a paid gig, as long as it's, well, regardless if it's paid a gig or not, but, like, as long as the objectives were hit for that project, and you met your end of the deal and the other person met their end of the deal, then so be it. You did what you could, and if they want to make modifications after the fact, I guess that's on them. But I think, for me, the biggest lesson there is, don't get caught up on on the minutia of things, and, like, see bigger picture things, and, like, hey, like, okay, this person changed your thing, okay, well, so be it. Like, there's going to be other situations or other opportunities that may come your way that may not kind of tap into those, modifications or what have you. But again, don't get discouraged. Uh, if it bothers you, figure out why it bothers you. But I mean, I think, as long as they're not stealing your work and plagiarizing, then I think that would be a different conversation, right? But yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay with it now.
Right. No, that's great, man. What's as we end this, man, we've gone the hour already. We'll wrap it up here soon. But I just want to ask, man, what's your favorite part about being a graphic designer here in the Valley, and what do you want your art to be remembered as?
Oh, that's a tough question. Um, for sure, I'd like my art to be remembered as unique and different. That switch is always on. Like, when in whatever I do, I'm like, okay, this needs to be you know a loteria card, but, like, how can this be different from any other loteria cards? Like, I don't want to. I'm always trying to break the mold, so I definitely want to hopefully try to be remembered at some point by just paving a new road. And then my favorite part about being a designer down here, again, like, just the community and being able to be inspired by people that I actually know. You know what I mean? And know and trust, and I am able to hang out with and have the lunch, the coffee, the random conversations, or even just advice, and, like, hey, I'm kind of going through some stuff. Like, what do you think? You know what I mean? Like you said, like, not just be not just be all shop. Like, I definitely love a good shop talk. Um, but just having friends in the community. And I think, from here on out, being able to expand on that, and then obviously tap into other creative communities outside of our own, to be able to say, hey, yeah, I know, Joey in New York, and him and I are working on this or whatever. but I think it starts off. I think a lot of us are eager to like the valley, whatever. Let's shoot for um, insert XYZ huge metropolitan area. We're quick to just fish over there, and we kind of skip out on our own area. And there's plenty to fish for here, like you know what I mean. But I definitely think you do have to build a foundation and a network of people that you can work with, collaborate with, hang out with, and whatever. And then from there, if you want to go any further, by all means. But yeah, I think it's just the accessibility of being able to connect with these people here.
Love it, man, and it's just beautiful that we got a graphic designer from the Valley creating art for the Valley from McAllen, Texas. So hopefully, this new generation, man, they see themselves reflected when they see, Froge, Ernie, and you're very approachable. So, like I said, all aspiring graphic designers, artists, reach out to the brother. He's a good guy. Um, so, with that being said, let's do the raffle, man. Everybody that participated, we'll put them in
Let's
the
do it.
raffle. Get some craft merch. Um, get a T-shirt, a tote bag as well, and Fro's gonna throw in one of his.
Yeah. So, full disclaimer. I was telling Chico I haven't printed any merch yet, so I'm pending that on my end, and then I have stickers as well. So, I don't have any merch at the moment, but mark my words, whoever is the winner will jot your name down, and you have my word. I'll reach out with you, or I'll reach out to you with a shirt and a sticker.
All right, so let's get it going. Here we go. Drum roll.
Chico Ramirez.
Hey, Gabriel. Oh,
Hey.
little Gabriela Cortez. Shout out to Gabby. So Gabby will send her some craft merch, some more craft merch.
Nice.
And all right.
Yeah, so Gabby, we'll reach out to you and hook you up with some more
And some
Froge
Froge
Studios
merch.
merch.
And some Froge merch as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Man, well, I just want to thank you, man, for taking some time out of your busy schedule. Like I said, I'm just very proud of you, bro. You're one of the best graphic designers
Thank you.
uh, in the Valley. And I'd say, like I said, this show's called Borderlands and Beyond. We're all about talking about issues that impact us on the Borderlands and Beyond, and connecting with people on the Borderlands and Beyond. Um, and I think your art, man, is among the best. Not just in the Valley, South Texas, but the country. We're proud of you. We're happy that you're part of the craft team and that you're building something with Froge Studios. So we have a lot to look forward to, man, with Froge Studios. Y'all give them a follow on Instagram at Froge Studios. We'll have that Froge Fest soon. And like I said, man, we just appreciate your time today. Any last words, man?
No, thank you for having me, Chico, for taking a chance on this whole Froge, and that chance meeting that we had back at Grind. But yeah, it's been a fun ride, meeting so many people from just again like this all started from just me putting myself out there. You know what I mean? Building that confidence and reaching out to people and being able to collaborate with them, and not getting discouraged. Some were yeses, some were nos, and that's okay too. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to really kind of double down on Froge Studios this year. Chico mentioned Froge Fest, so that's definitely something that I want to expand on. So as far as like merch goes and an actual Froge Fest event, so stay tuned. We got some deets coming up, so
Oh yeah,
we'll see.
we'll have to have a follow up, man. We can go on for another hour or two, man.
Oh yeah, I'm super down. Yeah.
We'll have an in-person event as well. So appreciate your time again, man. We love you, man. Take care. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Give us a follow, a like, a share at Craft Cultura, and be on the lookout for up and coming events. Y'all have a great day.
See you guys.